The space station called Vexen Prime floated in the darkness between three suns. It was old, very old. Thousands of species had walked its metal halls over millions of years. Trade happened here. Deals were made, fortunes were won and lost. Ambassador Kira Vasquez stepped off the human shuttle and took her first breath of recycled alien air. It smelled strange, like copper and flowers mixed together. She was a tall woman with dark hair pulled back tight. Her face showed nothing, no fear, no excitement, just calm. Behind her walked 12 other humans. They wore simple gray suits. They carried bags and computer tablets. To anyone watching, they looked like a small, unimportant group from a small, unimportant species, and that was exactly what Kira wanted them to think. Humanity had been traveling between stars for only 80 years. In galactic terms, this was nothing. Some species had been flying through space for millions of years. They had seen countless young species come and go. Most of them failed. Most of them disappeared into history, forgotten. The Thrawn Collective had been trading starships for 12,000 years. They were the biggest, the most powerful. When you needed ships, you went to the Thrawn. There was no other choice. A creature waited for them at the end of the docking corridor. It stood 8 ft tall on 6 legs. Its body was covered in hard black shell like a beetle. Its head had 2 huge eyes made of thousands of tiny lenses. When it moved, its shell made clicking sounds. I am High Merchant Death Volume, the creature said. Its voice came from a translator box on its chest. You are the humans. It was not a question. I am Ambassador Kira Vasquez. She replied, thank you for meeting with us. Zeal's huge eyes looked at her, then at the others. His mouth parts moved in what might have been amusement. Come, he said, we have prepared a meeting room. They walked through the station. Kira saw hundreds of different aliens. Some looked like fish, some looked like birds, some looked like nothing she had ever seen before. All of them moved aside when Death Volume passed. The Thrawn were respected here, or perhaps feared. The meeting room was large and cold. A long table sat in the middle. ZTH Volume took his place at one end. Kira sat at the other. Her team spread out behind her. So ZTH Volume said, you need ships? Yes, Kira answered. Humanity is growing. We need cargo vessels, transport ships. Our current fleet is old and small. I have heard about your fleet, Zith Volume said. His voice held a hint of mockery. You build ships from pieces you find. You copy technology you do not understand. It is impressive for such a young species. Kira smiled politely. She did not take the bait. We do our best with what we have, she said, but we want better. We want Thrawn ships. ZTH Volume made a sound like rocks grinding together. It was laughter. Everyone wants Thrawn ships, he said. We are the best. We have been the best for 12,000 years. Our ships last for centuries. Our engines never fail. And your prices, Kira asked. Fair, Zeal said. Always fair. He pressed a button on the table. Hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed a starship. It was beautiful, smooth lines, elegant design. It looked like something from a dream. The Thrawn Model 7 cargo hauler, Zith Volume said. Mid-range, reliable, perfect for a young species taking its first steps into the galaxy. How many can you offer us? 200 ships, ZTH Volume said. Delivered over 5 years. We will train your people to fly them. We will maintain them for you. Everything will be taken care of, Kira nodded slowly. And the cost, another hologram appeared. Numbers floated in the air, very large. Numbers, this is our newcomer rate, Z. Volume said very generous, we do not offer this to everyone, but humanity has potential, we see that we want to help you grow. Kira studied the numbers, her face remained calm, that is a lot of money, she said, quality costs money, ZV. Volume replied, but do not worry, we offer payment plans, you can pay over 100 years, very easy, very comfortable. He pushed a thick folder across the table, it landed in front of Kira with a heavy thump, the contract, Zial said. 847 pages, standard terms, everyone signed this contract, the Wellners signed it, the Crag signed it, even the Thousand Suns Empire signed it. Kira picked up the folder, she did not open it. We will need time to review this, she said. Zethal's eye lenses flickered. For a moment, something like surprise crossed his alien face, then it was gone. Review, he repeated. Yes, our lawyers will need to read it, check the terms, make sure everything is clear. ZTH. Volume made that grinding laugh. Again, little human, this contract has been used for 8,000 years. It is perfect, there is nothing to review. Species far older and wiser than yours have signed it without question. Kira smiled, it was a small smile. Polite, patient, I understand, she said. But humans have a saying, always read the fine print, it is our way, ZTH. Volume stared at her, his many eyes tried to read her face, but humans were new to him, he did not know their expressions, he did not understand what that small smile meant. Very well, he said finally, you have 3 days, then we move on to other buyers. Many species want these ships, we do not wait for anyone. 3 days is enough, Kira said. Thank you for your patience, she stood, her team stood with her. They gathered their things and walked toward the door. Ambassador, Zeval called out. Kira stopped and turned. Do not waste your time with lawyers, he said. The contract is fair, everyone says so. Just sign it and your people will have their ships. Make this easy for yourself. Kira looked at him for just a second. Something flickered in her eyes, it was there and then gone. ZTH. Volume did not notice it. I will see you in 3 days, she said. Then she walked out. ZTH. Volume sat alone in the meeting room. He thought about the human woman. She was confident for someone who represented such a weak species, but confidence meant nothing. Thousands of species had sat where she sat. All of them had signed. All of them had become customers of the Throng Collective. Many of them were still paying their debts. Generations later, humans would be no different. He was certain of it. On the human shuttle, flying back to their main ship, Kira finally let her smile grow wider. She looked at her team. Did you get all of it, she asked. A man with gray hair nodded. His name was Marcus Chen. He was not a diplomat. He had spent 40 years destroying companies and courtrooms back on Earth. Every word he said, every page, already uploaded to the analysis team. Kira leaned back her seat. Then let us get to work, she said. We have 3 days to take apart 8,000 years of alien contract law. Marcus smiled. It was not a nice smile. That is more than enough time. The human diplomatic ship was called the Geneva. It floated in space 3 hours away from Vexen Prime. From the outside, it looked ordinary, small, unimpressive. The kind of ship a poor young species would use. Inside, it was something else entirely. Don Ambassador Kira Vasquez walked into the main conference room and stopped. Every surface was covered with paper. Screens glowed on every wall. 14 people sat at tables, reading, typing, arguing. Coffee cups were everywhere. No one had slept. Report, Kira said. Marcus Chun looked up. His eyes were red from staring at screens, but he was smiling. They tried to trap us, he said. The contract is a masterpiece of hidden evil, but they made mistakes, old mistakes. He stood and walked to a large screen. With a touch, he brought up a page from the contract. Let me show you what we found, he said. The team gathered around. Kira crossed her arms and listened. First, the obvious traps, Marcus said. Page 247. Section 12, Maintenance Requirements. All ships must be serviced by licensed Thrawn technicians every 6 months. If you miss a service, the warranty ends. And the cost of service, it increases by 10% each year forever. So in 50 years, maintenance costs more than the ships. Someone said exactly, but wait, there is more. Marcus changed the screen. Pay 445. Section 89, Parts and Repairs. All replacement parts must come from Thrawn suppliers. Using any other parts breaks the contract and allows the Thrawn to repossess the ships, all of them, even if you only put one wrong screw in one ship. Kira nodded slowly. They want us dependent on them. They want everyone dependent on them. Marcus said, this is how they work. They sell you ships at a good price, then they own you forever. Through maintenance and parts. The Velner have been paying for 300 years. The Krog have been paying for 500. They can never escape. What else? Marcus pulled up another page. Page 612. Section 156, the debt clause. If you cannot make payments, you do not lose just the ships. You become a preferred debtor. That is galactic code for slave species. The Thrawn would own rights to human labor. Our people would have to work for them to pay off the debt. Room was quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. They were going to enslave us with a contract. Kira said softly. Many species have fallen into this trap. Marcus said the Thrawn have done this for thousands of years. They are very good at it. Kira walked to the window and looked out at the stars. So what do? We cannot sign this contract, but we need ships. Marcus made a sound. It was almost a laugh. Oh, Ambassador, we are not here to walk away. We are here to win. He changed the screen again. New page appeared. It was old. The text was faded. It looked like it had been written long ago and forgotten. Clause for 47J. Marcus said, written 9,000 years ago. Back then the Thrawn were more careless. They wrote this for a species called the Vin. The Vin are gone now, extinct for 8,000 years, but their clause remains. Kira turned from the window. What does it say? It says that if a purchasing species can demonstrate comparable manufacturing capability within one standard galactic cycle, all debt obligations convert to trade partnership status. Equal partners, no debt, no slavery, no trap. One galactic cycle is about 18 Earth months. Another lawyer added. Kira frowned. They want us to build ships as good as theirs in 18 months. That is impossible. Marcus held up a finger. Not as good. The clause says comparable, similar, close enough. And there is more. They changed the screen again. Clause 447K. If the purchasing species demonstrates superior capability in any single area, they can claim innovation compensation. The Thrawn would owe us money. Has anyone ever used these clauses? Never. Marcus said, no young species has ever been able to build ships fast enough. The Thrawn know this. That is why they left the clauses in the contract. They think it is impossible. Kira was quiet. For a long moment, she thought about Earth. She thought about human history. Humans had built the Great Wall. They had built the pyramids. They had gone from horse carts to moon rockets in less than 100 years. What exactly do we need to prove? She asked. We need to build 200 ships in 18 months. Marcus said, they do not have to be pretty. They do not have to be elegant. They just have to work, and they have to be truly ours, original designs, not copies. Kira smiled. It was the same smile she had shown ZTH volume. Small, polite, dangerous, contact Earth. She said, tell them to wake up the factories, all of them. 3 days later, Kira walked back into the meeting room. On Vexen Prime, ZTH volume was waiting. He looked pleased. He was certain that humans had come to sign. Ambassador, he said, have your lawyers finished their little review? They have. Kira said. She placed the contract on the table. We are ready to sign. Zulful's eyes glittered. Excellent. I knew you would see reason. Kira picked up a pen. She signed her name on the last page. Then she placed another document on the table. It was thick, very thick. What is this? Seth Volume asked. Our addendum. Kira said. 12,000 pages. We are formally invoking Clause 447J. Equivalent exchange protocols, as allowed under Galactic Treaty Law. Zeth Volume went very still. His eye lenses focused on the document. You cannot be serious, he said. We are always serious about contracts. Kira replied. You said so yourself. The contract is perfect. It has been used for 8,000 years. All we are doing is using the terms you offered. No species has ever succeeded at equivalent exchange. It is impossible. Kira gathered her things. Then you have nothing to worry about. We will either fail and become your debtors, or we will succeed and become your partners. Either way, you still have a customer. She walked toward the door. This is a mistake, ZTH Volume called after her. You are wasting your time. In 18 months, you will have nothing and we will own you. Kira stopped at the door. She looked back at him. We have another saying on Earth, she said. Never bet against human stubbornness. Then she was gone. Zeth Volume sat alone in the meeting room. He looked at the 12,000 pages of human amendments. He did not read them. He did not need to. The clauses were meaningless. No young species could build a fleet in 18 months. He was certain of it. On the other side of the galaxy, the first human factory started its engines. Then another. Lights came on. Across 100 moons and stations, robots woke up. Assembly lines began to move. Millions of humans went to work. The clock had started. 6 months passed. Zethal Volume sat in his office on Vexen Prime, reviewing trade reports. The business was good. It was always good. The Thrawn Collective had made record profits this quarter. Several new species had signed contracts. The galaxy continued to need ships, and the Thrawn continued to provide them. He had almost forgotten about the humans. Then his assistant rushed into the office. The young Thrawn's shell was shaking. His eyes were wide with what could only be fear. "High Merchant," the assistant said, "you need to see this." Zeph Volume followed him to the intelligence center. A dozen Thrawn analysts sat at screens watching. Data streams from across the galaxy. One screen showed a shipping lane near human space. Something was moving through it. "What am I looking at?" C Volume asked. "Human vessels," an analyst said, "but not the ones we sold them. These are different." The screen zoomed in. Zeph Volume saw ships he did not recognize. They were ugly, blocky, square. They had no elegant curves, no beautiful lines. They looked like metal boxes with engines attached, but they were moving fast, very fast. "Where did these come from?" Zeph Volume demanded. "Human shipyards," the analyst said. "They have been building them for 5 months. We have counted 37 vessels so far, all original designs. 37 ships in 5 months. Zethal's voice was sharp. "That is impossible. It takes us 2 years to build a single cargo hauler." "I know, High Merchant, but the numbers do not lie." "Look," the screen changed. It showed satellite images of human space. Zeph Volume saw something that made his shell go cold. Shipyards, dozens of them, huge metal structures floating in orbit around planets and moons. They were not elegant like Thrawn construction facilities. They were rough, industrial, ugly, and they were working. Zethel watched as pieces of ships moved along assembly lines. Robots welded whole plates, cranes lifted engines into place. Everywhere there was movement, activity, production. They never stopped, the analyst whispered. "We have them watching for a week." The shipyards work all day, all night, every hour. They never rest. "That is not possible," Zeph Volume said. "Workers need rest. Machines need maintenance. Humans work in shifts," another analyst said. "When one group gets tired, another takes over. They call it the 3-shift system, and their machines, they build robots to fix their other robots. Work never ends." ZTH Volume stared at the screen. He watched a ship take shape before his eyes. Sections were added one after another. Engines were installed. Wiring was connected. In the time it took him to watch, the ship went from a skeleton to something almost complete. "How?" he asked. "How are they doing this?" The senior analyst hesitated. "We have studied their methods, High Merchant. They are different from us." "Explain." "We build ships to be perfect. Every part is made by skilled craftsmen. Every piece is tested for 100 years before we use it. Our ships are works of art. They last for centuries." "Yes, this is the Thrawn way. Humans do not care about perfection. They care about speed. They build something, test it, find problems, and build again. They call it iteration. They make mistakes, but they fix them quickly. Each ship is better than the last. Not perfect, but good enough." "Good enough." Zephal repeated the words like they were poison. "What kind of philosophy is that?" "A fast one," the analyst said quietly. Zeth Volume turned away from the screens. He walked to a window and looked out at the stars. For 12,000 years, the Thrawn had been the masters of shipbuilding. No one challenged them. No one could match their quality. They had all the time in the universe. These humans did not have time, so they had invented a different way. "Send agents," Zethal ordered. "I want people inside their shipyards. I want to know everything about how they work." 2 months later, the agents returned. They looked tired, shaken. One of them kept twitching. "Report." Zev Volume Commanded, the lead agent stepped forward. He was an experienced spy who had infiltrated 100 civilizations. But something about this mission had disturbed him. The humans are insane, he said. Svol's eyes narrowed. Explain. They work like there is no tomorrow. They sleep 4 hours and call it enough. They drink a black liquid called coffee that makes them move faster and talk louder. They argue constantly about designs, then build 3 different versions to see which works best. That is wasteful, yes, but it is also fast. They do not wait for consensus. They do not wait for approval. Someone has an idea, they build it, they test it. If it fails, they laugh and try again. Failure does not shame them. They have a saying: fail fast, fail forward. Zeth Volume did not understand. In Fran culture, failure was disgrace. You did not try something unless you were certain it would work. There is more, the agent continued. Their ships have something called redundant systems. Every important part has a backup, sometimes 2 backups. We thought this was wasteful at first, but it means their ships can take damage and keep flying. Our ships are more elegant. But if one part breaks, the whole ship stops. And the workers, the agent shuddered, they train their workers in weeks, not years. They give them simple jobs. 1 person welds, 1 person wires, 1 person paints. No one builds a whole ship. Everyone builds a tiny piece. It is mindless work, but it is very, very fast. Zeth Volume was silent for a long time. How many ships do they have now? He finally asked. Agent checked his data pad. 147. They will reach 200 before the deadline, probably more. Are the ships any goods? They are ugly. They are loud. They shake when they fly. But the agent paused. They are 12% faster than our Model 7, and they cost 40% less to build. Zeth Volume felt something he had not felt in centuries. It was a cold feeling in his stomach. It was fear. Leave me, he ordered. The agents left. Z Volume stood alone in his office. He looked at a model of a Thrawn ship on his desk. It was beautiful, perfect, the product of 12,000 years of refinement, but it was slow to build, expensive, dependent on parts only the Thrawn could make. The humans did not care about beauty. They cared about results. For the first time, Zeth Volume wondered if he had made a mistake. On the far side of the galaxy, Ambassador Kira Vasquez stood on the observation deck of a human shipyard. She watched as ship number 150 rolled off the assembly line. Workers cheered. Music played. Someone had brought cake. Marcus Chun stood beside her. We are ahead of schedule, he said. At this rate, we will have 250 ships by the deadline. Kira nodded. And the quality better than expected. The engineers keep improving the designs. Each batch is better than the last. The latest ships are almost as fast as Thrawn premium vessels. Almost is not enough, Kira said. I want to beat them in at least one area. Completely, undeniably, I want to invoke innovation compensation. Marcus smiled. Already done. Our ships can be repaired by any trained crew member using standard parts from any supplier. Thrawn ships require licensed technicians and proprietary parts. In terms of practical maintenance, we are not just better, we are revolutionary. Kira watched another ship skeleton begin its journey down the assembly line. In 3 weeks, it would be a working vessel, ready to fly, ready to trade. Send message to Zethal, she said. Inform him that we are formally submitting our Evidence to the Galactic Arbitration Council, Clause 447J. Equivalent Exchange, and Clause 447K. Innovation Compensation, Marcus raised an eyebrow. You want to warn him. I want him to see it coming, Kira said, and I want him to know there is nothing he can do to stop it. The message was sent across the galaxy. Zethal received it. He did not sleep that night. The Galactic Arbitration Council met on a space station called Neutral Ground. It floated at the exact center of known space, far from any empire or territory. Here, disputes between species were settled. Here, justice was supposed to be fair. The Great Chamber was filled with representatives from 100 species. They sat in floating chairs arranged in a circle around the central floor. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no bodies at all, just clouds of glowing gas. All of them had come to watch. Everyone had heard the rumors. The young humans were challenging the mighty Thrawn. It was the most interesting case in 1,000 years. Zeth Volume entered. First, he walked slowly, his 6 legs clicking on the metal floor. Behind him came a team of Thrawn lawyers. They carried ancient books and data tablets. They looked confident. The Thrawn had never lost a case here, not once in 12,000 years. Then the humans entered. Ambassador Kira Vasquez led her team. They wore simple gray suits just like before. They carried slim data pads and nothing else. They looked small compared to the Thrawn delegation. Young, inexperienced, but they did not look afraid. The chief arbiter was a being called Judge Volas. She was old. Even by galactic standards, her body was like a tree made of crystal, and her voice sounded like wind through leaves. This hearing is now open, she said. The matter before us is Contract 77,453H between the Thrawn Collective and the species known as humans. The humans have invoked Clause 447J, Equivalent Exchange Protocols, and Clause 447K, Innovation Compensation. The Thrawn dispute these claims. She turned to Zethal. I merchant, you may present your argument. Z Volume stepped forward. His voice was strong and sure. Honored arbiter, this case is simple. Clause 447J requires the purchasing species to demonstrate comparable manufacturing capability. The humans have built ships. Yes, but these ships are crude, ugly. They lack the quality and craftsmanship that define true Thrawn vessels. Building simple boxes with engines is not the same as building starships. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Many species nodded. The Thrawn made good points. Furthermore, Zeth Volume continued. Clause 447K requires superior capability in a meaningful area. The humans claim their ships are easier to repair, but ease of repair means nothing if the ships break. More often, our ships do not need easy repair because they do not break. He turned to look at Kira. The humans are clever, I will give them that, but cleverness is not capability. They have not met the requirements of the clauses they invoked. Their case should be dismissed. The Thrawn lawyers nodded. The crowd, several species, applauded. Quietly, it was a strong opening. Judge Velos turned to the humans. Ambassador Vasquez, your response. Kira stood. She walked to the center of the floor. She did not carry notes. She did not look at her team. She simply spoke. Honored arbiter, the High Merchant is correct about one thing. Our ships are not beautiful. They do not have elegant curves or artistic designs. They look like, as he said, boxes with engines. She smiled slightly. The clause 447J does not mention beauty. It does not mention craftsmanship. It does not mention elegance. The exact words are comparable manufacturing capability. The clause asks one question: can we build ships that work? She pressed a button on her data pad. Hologram appeared above the floor. It showed a human ship next to a Thrawn. Our ships fly. They carry cargo. They travel between stars. They do everything the Thrawn Model 7 does. In some areas they do it better. The hologram changed. Numbers appeared. Human ships are 12% faster in normal space. Human ships can be refueled at any standard station, while Thrawn ships require special fuel. Human ships can carry 15% more cargo for their size. She looked at ZTH volume. The High Merchant says our ships are crude, but crude ships that work are still ships. Clause says comparable. It does not say identical. It does not say better. Every way it says comparable, and by every objective measure our ships are comparable to Thrawn vessels. Judd Velos leaned forward, and the innovation compensation claim. Kira changed the hologram again. This time it showed repair data. When a Thrawn ship breaks down, it must be taken to a licensed Thrawn facility. The average repair time is 6 weeks. The cost is set by the Thrawn with no competition. If you cannot pay, you cannot fly. Your ship sits dead in space until the Thrawn decide to fix it. The hologram changed to show a human ship. When a human ship breaks down, any trained crew member can repair it. They can use parts from any supplier. The average repair time is 4 days. The cost is whatever the open market charges. Our ships are not just easier to repair, they are fundamentally different in philosophy. We designed them to be fixed. We designed them to be independent. She turned to face the whole chamber. The Thrawn have built-in empire on dependency. You buy their ships, you need their parts, you need their technicians, you need them forever. It is not just business, it is a trap. Many species in this room know exactly what I am talking about. Chamber went quiet. Kira had touched something real. Many species had suffered under Thrawn contracts. They had paid for generations. They had lost their freedom to debt. Human ships offer something the galaxy has never had. Kira continued. Choice, independence, freedom from the throw monopoly. That is not just innovation, that is revolution. She turned back to Judge. We meet the requirements of both clauses. We have demonstrated comparable manufacturing capability. We have demonstrated superior capability in a meaningful area. We ask the council to rule in our favor. She returned to her seat. Chamber was silent, then slowly whispers began. Species who had been quiet for centuries were talking. Representatives leaned toward each other, sharing thoughts. Z single quotes. V stood again. This is manipulation, he said. His voice was less confident now. The humans are twisting words. They are making this about politics instead of law. Is it manipulation to read a contract carefully? Kira asked without standing. Is it manipulation to use the terms you offered? You wrote these clauses, High Merchant. Were you simply using them? Those clauses were never meant to be used. Then you should not have put them in the contract. The chamber erupted in noise. Judge Velos raised a crystal hand and silence fell. The council would consider the arguments, she said. We will deliver our judgment in 1 hour. The longest hour of Zethal S followed. He sat with his lawyers reviewing documents, looking for any defense, but there was nothing. The humans had not broken any rules. They had simply read the contract more carefully than anyone in 8,000 years. When the hour ended, Judge Velos returned. The council has reached a decision, she said, on the matter of Clause 447J. We find in favor of the humans. They have demonstrated comparable manufacturing capability. All debt obligations under contract 77,453H are converted to trade partnership status. The humans owe the throne nothing. A gasp went through the chamber. On the matter of Clause 447K, we also find in favor of the humans. Their approach to ship maintenance represents a genuine innovation that benefits the galactic community under the Innovation Compensation Provision. The Thrawn Collective is ordered to pay the humans reparations in the amount of... She read a number. It was very large. Large enough to make Zethal S legs go weak. This case is closed. The chamber exploded into noise. Species were cheering. Some were laughing. For the first time in galactic history, someone had beaten the Thrawn at their own game. Kira Vasquez stood quietly. She did not celebrate. She simply gathered her things and walked toward the exit. Z. Volume blocked her path. You have made an enemy today, he said. His voice was cold. The Thrawn do not forget. Kira looked up at him. She was small compared to his massive form, but she did not seem small. We have another saying on Earth, she said. Do not start a fight. You cannot win. She walked past him and did not look back. The galaxy would never be the same. 1 year had passed since the judgment. The galaxy was changing. Everyone could feel it. Something had shifted when the humans beat the Thrawn. A door had opened that could never be closed again. In the shipping lanes, human vessels moved alongside Thrawn ships. They were not as pretty, but there were more of them every month. Human shipyards worked day and night, producing cargo haulers, passenger transports, mining vessels. The prices were fair. The contracts were simple. No hidden clauses, no traps. Other species started buying from humans, first the small ones, the young civilizations who could not afford Thrawn prices, then the older ones, the species who had been trapped in Thrawn debt for generations. One by one, they came to human trading stations and asked for deals, but ships were not the only thing humans sold. Wellner were the first. They came to Earth with a simple request. Their species had signed a Thrawn contract 300 years ago. They were still paying. They would be paying for another 200 years. Could humans help them? Marcus Chun looked at their contract. It took his team 4 days to find the weakness. Clause about technology sharing that the Thrawn had forgotten about. When properly invoked, it reduced the Velner's debt by 60%. The Velner paid humans well for this service. Word spread. Soon species from across the galaxy were coming to Earth. Not for ships, for lawyers. Human legal experts became the most valuable people in the universe. They could read contracts that had trapped civilizations for millennia and find ways out. They charged high fees, but they delivered results. A new phrase entered galactic vocabulary: human audit. When a species said they were getting a human audit, everyone knew what it meant. They were fighting back against whatever empire had trapped them, and they were probably going to win. The Thrawn Collective did not collapse. They were too old, too big, too established to fall completely. But for the first time in their history, they were losing customers. Their stock price dropped. Their board members argued. Some called for change, for fairer contracts, for better treatment of customers. Others called for revenge. On Vexen Prime, ZTH Volume sat alone in his office. The room that had once felt like the center of the universe now felt like a tomb. Reports covered his desk. Bad news, more bad news. Market share down 12%. Customer satisfaction at record lows. Profits falling for the first time in 1,000 years. And everywhere the humans thought they were not trying to destroy the throne. That was the worst part. They were simply competing, building better products, offering better terms, treating customers like partners instead of prey. It was a simple strategy, and it was working. Knock came at the door. Seth Volume looked up. Enter. He said that his assistant came in. Hi, merchant. Ambassador Vasquez has requested a meeting. She's on the station now. ZTH Volume was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh. Send her in. Kira Vasquez walked into his office alone. No lawyers, no aides, just her in her simple gray suit. She looked exactly the same as she had 2 years ago. "I'm merchant," she said politely. Ambassador ZTH Volume gestured to a chair. "Please sit," she said. For a moment neither spoke. "Why are you here?" Seth Volume finally asked. "To make you an offer," Kira said. His eyes narrowed. "What kind of offer?" "Partnership, a real one." Thul's mandibles clicked with surprise. "You want to work with us after everything?" "The galaxy is big," Kira said. "There is room for more than one shipbuilder. Thrawn have knowledge we do not have. Techniques that took you thousands of years to develop. We have methods you do not have. Speed, flexibility, innovation. Together we could build ships neither of us could build alone." "Why would we agree to this?" Kira leaned forward. "Because the alternative is worse. Right now you are losing. Slowly but surely, in 50 years, maybe 100, the Thrawn Collective will be a shadow of what it was. You will survive, but you will not matter anymore." She paused. "Or you can change. You can learn from us, and we can learn from you. You can stop treating customers like prey and start treating them like partners. It will feel strange at first, different, but it will work." Zal stared at her. "You are offering us mercy." "I am offering you a future," Kira said. "There is a difference." The room was silent. Seth Volume thought about his ancestors. They had built the Thrawn Collective. Through strength and cunning, they had dominated the galaxy through superior products and careful traps. For 12,000 years their way had worked, but the galaxy was different now. The humans had shown everyone that there was another way, a way based on fairness and competition instead of tricks and debt. The old methods would not work anymore. "I will consider your offer," Zith Volume said finally. Kira stood. "Take your time. We are patient." She walked to the door, then stopped. "There is something I have always wanted to ask you," she said. "When you first met us, when you saw how small we were, how young, how weak, what did you think?" Seth Volume was quiet for a moment. "I thought you would be easy." And now he looked at her, this small human who had changed everything, who had walked into his office with nothing but 12 other lawyers and a stack of paper, and had turned the galaxy upside Down, now I think I underestimated you, he said. I will not make that mistake again. Kira smiled. It was a warm smile, not the dangerous one from before. That is the first step to wisdom, she said. I hope to see you again. High merchant. She left. ZTH. Volume sat alone in his office. He looked at the model ship on his desk. Beautiful, perfect, ancient. Then he looked at a picture on his wall. A human ship, ugly, simple, new. Both of them worked. Both of them flew among the stars. Maybe that was all that mattered. For the first time in a very long time, Zev Volume began to think about chain. On Earth, Kira Vasquez gave a speech to the Galactic Trade Council. Representatives from hundreds of species watched on screens across the galaxy. On my world, she said, we spent thousands of years fighting each other. We developed weapons and strategies for war. We learned to kill in 1,000 different ways, but somewhere along the way we also learned something else. We learned that words could be more powerful than weapons. She paused. We created something called contract law. Rules for making deals, methods for resolving disputes without bloodshed. It was not perfect, it was often abused. But it gave us a way to fight without destroying each other, a way to compete without killing. She looked out at the chamber. The galaxy is old. Many of you have been fighting the same battles for millions of years, but you do not have to keep fighting. There are other ways, better ways. If a young species like humanity can find them, so can you. Her speech ended. The chamber was silent. Then slowly applause began. It grew louder and louder until it filled the room. Outside the chamber, a young Thrawn approached Kira. He was small, barely adult. His shell was still soft. In places, he looked nervous. Ambassador, he said, I'm sorry to bother you. I am just a small trader. My family has a small business. We are nothing compared to the collective. What do you want? Kira asked kindly. I want to know, could humans help us? We have a contract with a larger company. It is not fair, but we signed it. We did not know what we were agreeing to. Kira reached into her pocket and pulled out a small card. Call this number, she said. Our lawyers will look at your contract. If there is a way out, they will find it. The young Thrawn took the card with trembling hands. Thank you, Ambassador. But I have heard human lawyers are expensive. Kira smiled. For small businesses just starting out, the first consultation is free. After that, we work something out. Fair terms, no trucks. The young Thrawn looked at her with something that humans recognized easily. It was hope. I will call, he said. Thank you. He walked away holding the card like it was the most valuable thing in the universe. Marcus Chen appeared beside Kira. He watched the young Thrawn go. You know, he said, we could have crushed them. After everything they tried to do to us, we could have broken the Thrawn collective completely. Yes, Kira said, we could have. Why did you not? Kira looked up at the stars visible through the station windows. Somewhere out there, human ships were flying. Human factories were building. Human lawyers were reading contracts and finding freedom for species that have been trapped for generations. Because that is not who we are, she said. We fight hard, we play to win. But when we win, we do not destroy our enemies, we turn them into partners. That is the human way. Marcus nodded. Slowly, it is a good way. It is our way. Kira said, and now perhaps it will become the galaxy's way too. They stood together watching the stars. Somewhere Out there the future was waiting, and humanity was ready for it.